By the end of the 19th century, the Port of Montreal transshipped millions of tons of cereal from Western Canada. Tons of wheat, buckwheat, peas, barley, rye, oats, corn, and flax that needed to be unloaded, washed, weighed, sorted, and stored. With the booming economy, the transshipment of goods grew significantly, and dock workers, always first in line, were more than a little overworked. But you can't stop progress. And so, from 1902 to 1912, port authorities added conveyors, warehouses, railway tracks, and a few giants. That's right. Believe it or not, giant steel and concrete grain elevators once towered over the port. The first elevator, elevator number 1, was 12 stories high and located along the promenade between the Alexandra and King Edward Quays, right about where the pond is right now. Each elevator was connected to conveyor belts and at least one marine tower that transshipped the grain to and from the elevator. Marine towers, like the one still standing on the conveyor quay, were used to load and unload ships. Tower A, which has since been taken down, was located near the shore, while Tower B was located on the other end of the conveyor quay. Both towers were mounted on tracks. They could be used independently to unload 2 boats at a time, or in unison to unload a single boat more quickly. Each tower could load or unload 700 tons of grain per hour. My grandfather, Camille, who was always a modest man, was nonetheless very proud of his port. And when he sat me on his knee to tell me stories of his dock working days, he would often boast that the Port of Montreal was once known as the largest grain exporting port in the universe. But what goes up must eventually come down. And so, after the heydays of the Roaring '20s, the Port of Montreal hit a slow patch, starting with the Great Depression in the '30s, all the way through the Second World War in the '40s. By that time, my father, Laurent Bordelot, had naturally followed in his father's footsteps as a longshoreman, and he was more than a little worried about the future of his port. See, in the 50s, the construction of the St. Lawrence Seaway was in full swing, and its expansion threatened to radically change the flow of goods on the river. His boss believed that it would be a good thing for business because, in his mind, it would increase grain traffic on the St. Lawrence, which would in turn benefit Canada's largest grain port. But my father wasn't so optimistic. He worried that the ships might just pass on by without stopping in Montreal.